Now, why is it that Jupiter gives not so good results or one of its tougher results in the third house? The reason being is, if you look at the characteristics of Jupiter, Jupiter expands the nature of the house, the manifestation of the house, the results of the house that it is placed in. So if Jupiter goes into the third house, what does it do? Firstly, the third house is the house of effort. So when Jupiter goes into the third house, it expands the effort that you need to put in life also. The other thing is that certain aspects may be good because Jupiter will also expand your communication, but it may also tend to make you a little more verbose also. While it may make you wise, but sometimes you may get into this activity of trying to be too wise or trying to guide others, trying to advise others. Though it's not so bad, especially if you are a teacher or if you are a guide in some way or the other. However, normally people don't like unsolicited advice, so sometimes it can rub off on the wrong people. However, the other thing Jupiter does when it goes into the third house is also makes you too wise. Sometimes you may overthink or procrastinate before you take up any activity. You may think twice, thinking whether I should really do this. Does this really need me to put in so much effort or not? So on one side, it may make you to put in more effort. The job or the service that you do may require you to put in more effort, or you, because you are wise and you feel others are not putting in that kind of an effort, how will the project be done? How will the task be done? You, by nature of you being the wise person, may tend to put in harder effort without even getting the right remuneration for it. And so this is either a placement of where you're putting in more long hours, more hard work without getting the fruits, or sometimes you may procrastinate, thinking that is it really required for me, trying or being too wise, thinking that this may not be as fruitful as maybe doing something else. So Jupiter in the third house will give you this particular situation that you are in, where getting enough credit for your work, getting enough gratitude for your work, getting enough rewards for your work may not be coming through. So definitely a slightly tougher placement for Jupiter when compared to the other houses when Jupiter goes into the third house. Now when Jupiter goes into the sixth house, what is the sixth house of? The sixth house is the house of competition, inimical forces, those people who may be talking or acting behind your back. But it is also the house of service, maybe a job that you do under somebody. So here when Jupiter goes into the sixth house, it expands your service potential. So you end up doing a lot. You contribute much more than is required in the job, required in the service. So people like you because you are somebody who is putting in hard work. Colleagues may also like you. However, they may also see you as easy meal. What do I mean by that? Now you are the wise person, so they keep coming to you, asking you for help, asking you for support. You being the large-hearted person, because of the Jupiter, you tend to give in. So you end up putting in more long hours. Firstly, because Jupiter expands the house of service, you put in more hours, you serve more, you become a better servant. And because you are the wise person, you don't tend to say no to others. You are the nice guy or nice person. So you tend to put in more work for others as well. Third, because it is the house of inimical forces, people who are acting behind your back, many times competition, because in today's time everybody is trying to ride roughshod over others and trying to steal a march over others and do better than others, so at least showcase themselves better than others, house of competition. So here everybody is competing with everybody else. However, you, again being the wise person, you feel, is it really important for me to be in the rat race? How will it serve? Everybody is vying for the same placement. Third, this also requires you to be a little bit more diplomatic, be a little tactful. But the large-hearted Jupiter that you are, the large-hearted person, the most server, the bigger servant, you value in the wisdom and in the servitude that this house brings in. So this is a house which will make you put in more work, put in more effort, put in long hours, help others also, being somebody's, other people's crutch also, yet may not be able to get that gratitude. And because Jupiter expands, it will expand the competition that you face. Because you are the nice person, but you are the wise person, you are the person who puts in hard work, others may try to use tact, manipulation to be able to steal a march over you. So sometimes there would be people who act behind your back you're not able to see it because you're not part of the grapevine also, and hence Jupiter may not tend to give you the best results in the 6th house. The other reason also is Jupiter is not the Karaka of the 6th house, it is Saturn, and so wherever Saturn does much better, Jupiter tends to not give you the best results, and hence Jupiter in the 6th house may not be able to give you the better results compared to some other houses. When Jupiter goes into the 7th house, normally Jupiter in any house, especially the Kendra houses, does very well. However, it does not do so very well in the 7th house. Now there should be a slight differentiation between genders also here, because for women Jupiter tends to become or is the Karaka of the husband, the partner. So Jupiter should give you slightly better results here. However, the better results that it gives to women when Jupiter goes into the 7th house are very limited. So if Jupiter is strong in the 7th house, normally you may get a husband or partner who's much better than you in the social arena, in the social structure, and also better in also the affluence of the family that the person comes from. So normally the partner may come from a better family, more affluent family, a better well-to-do family also. However, this can also expand the relationship, or in the relationship the partnership component, which means sometimes you tend to give more, you tend to become the large-hearted person, you tend to contribute more. Sometimes you're too wise to pick on a fight. So what does Jupiter do in the 7th house? It makes you very large-hearted in a partnership. You tend to give more, you tend to contribute more, and sometimes it is also a placement where you can be taken advantage of because you tend to give more in a partnership. Secondly, it keeps you in a partnership for too long. This is not a placement where you want to break away from being in a team and then vying for the leadership role, vying to be the captain of the ship, vying to be somebody who will lead the project, lead a team, lead a department, lead an organization, or even lead the industry. Sometimes you are relegated to the backbenches, and so your Jupiter tends to not give you great results because of expansion in your partnership component. So you may be doing well in a partnership, but yet even in a partnership you tend to contribute more, give more, being the large-hearted person, not wanting to pick up a fight as well. So for women maybe slightly better results, but for men definitely not the best of results, also because it is about higher learning. So what does somebody do here? Somebody says things that, and because various experiences also teach you, so this is also a house where Jupiter teaches you a lesson about how you need to take part in the relationship, how you should partake in a partnership. So one of the tougher results for Jupiter also comes from the 7th house. Jupiter going into the 8th house, going into a Dusthana. Dusthanas are where Saturn is the Karaka of the Dusthanas. So in any house where Saturn does better, Jupiter tends to not give the best results. Remember that Jupiter also gets debilitated in the sign of Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn. So when Jupiter goes into the 8th house, Jupiter tends to also get suffocated in the 8th house. One of the reasons is that the 8th house means depth. This is not the depth of wisdom, of learning. This is the depth of mysteriousness, of darkness. Jupiter doesn't do very well in an environment which is very dark. Jupiter tends to bring light to a place. However, it is about learning. 8th house is about the mysteriousness, those things which we don't know. Sometimes we may not need to delve into it. Sometimes we don't need to go there. And that's why Mars does much better here, and then Saturn does much better in the 8th house. Jupiter on the 8th house expands the mysteriousness, expands the depth, expands the challenges, the obstacles, the issues, the problems which come from the 8th house. So sometimes Jupiter also expands the suddenness which the 8th house represents. So sudden obstacles and big obstacles, sudden challenges, big challenges, sudden issues, big issues. And so many times when Jupiter goes into the 8th house, it also brings in sudden illnesses which later on can become very troublesome, even chronic. So usually a lot of people who have Jupiter in the 8th house, and if they don't have a strong Lagna, they may also be people who may be suffering from either cholesterol related challenges or diabetes, sugar related problems in the long run. Sometimes it may also make somebody have health challenges because of weight issues. So if somebody has Jupiter in the 8th house, there are various challenges which one will have to contend with because of certain obstacles, certain issues, certain problems. Increase of the challenges, bigger problems, bigger issues, health challenges also. The other thing Jupiter does in the 8th house is also limits the potential that you can derive out of the 8th house. So in some areas it may give you good results, for example in taxation or money related issues. However, in many other areas, in fact, of how to contend with certain challenges, certain issues, where a sharp Mars may be able to do that better, or a patient Saturn may be able to do better, or a responsible Sun may also be doing better, Jupiter tends to not give you the best of results when it goes into the 8th house. Jupiter in the 10th house, Jupiter tends to not give you the best results in the 10th house. One of the reasons is that the 10th house has Capricorn energies. Capricorn is a sign of debilitation for Jupiter. The other thing about the 10th house is, what is the 10th house about? The 10th house is about your designation, your authority at work, related to your career, related to your karma also. So when Jupiter goes into the 10th house, usually the tact that is required, the diplomacy that is required to be able to do well at work. So at work you cannot be the too large-hearted person, too wise person. You have to be somebody who is very tactful, who is very diplomatic, who is very sharp, who is very clever. If you look at history, you will find history is replete with those people who have done very well in politics or in wars. But generally the people who have been the ones who have excelled most or done best, you will hardly find that Jupiter will be in the 10th house. You look up any horoscope. The Jupiter in the horoscope in the 10th house is the wise person who can be the advisor to the king, advisor to the general, advisor to the highest authority at work. So you tend to end up becoming the advisor to the boss, to the supervisor, to the manager, to the CEO, but generally you don't tend to become the topmost leader. Other reason is because the king feels you are such a good advisor, so he keeps you as an advisor, never takes you to become the general, become a minister. So if you look at history, you will find that Akbar's advisor, one of the advisors was Birbal, but Birbal wasn't known for his wisdom. Birbal was known for his cleverness, for his tact. So with Jupiter in the 10th house, you will find that many times you end up becoming the wise person, not having the diplomacy, not having the tact, not having the little bit of manipulation which is required, especially in today's time than in earlier times. So Jupiter tends to give you higher work, harder work, tends to relegate you to becoming an advisor, seldom giving you an opportunity to really shine, which a Sun may be able to do, even a Mars may be able to do, even a Saturn in the long term may be able to give. So one of the most challenging placements for a planet such as Jupiter is in the 10th house, especially because it also has the Capricorn energies when you are debilitated because of your large-heartedness, because of your tending to give more rather than asking for more.